would.
Yeah. Taking me some time.
So, good. So,
Well, in this open space conversation, whenever I have the opportunity, I always throw this out there that, we have a regional down payment assistance program and a regional owner-occupied rehabilitation program. So if you're located within our 16 counties in northeast Nebraska, you could have some of your citizens or homeowners available for those funds. And then we also have a regional business loan program that stretches out a little bit further than 16 counties. But if you're not sure if you qualify for that, or you know anybody that would qualify for that, always have them give us a call, and if we can't help them, we'll put them in the right direction.
super great information, Tom. Thanks for that. Got a few more people. I try to acknowledge everybody who joins us, but I'm getting to the point I can't keep up with everybody. But Chelsea from Box Butte County, I see you've joined us, so welcome. We're just having a time of open space conversation for those of you who are joining us. Alan, welcome. So what's on your mind? What topic do you want to discuss as we're leading up to 2 o'clock today?
I have a question for Tom.
Okay.
You said the owner-occupied rehab. Is there a deadline on that, or is that as they come to you? Are you like an open season on that?
First come, first ready with our regional program, yes.
Okay.
Same with down payment assistance and the business loan program.
Okay. How does the down payment assistance work? Or I suppose you've got a form on that I can find on your website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, it's basically we provide 20% up to, I believe, $30,000 to help someone purchase a home.
That's very nice. Thanks.
Good information. Thanks. Eric and Jamie, Miranda, Star, welcome. Many of you I'm not keeping up with, but feel free to hop into our open space conversation today. I don't always want to bring the topic to our monthly webinar. So what is of interest to you here as we're getting closer to starting here at 2 o'clock? I am thankful if you want to take a weekend trip. The cranes are in force here in South Central Nebraska. And I think it's supposed to be in the 60s this week. And better check my phone before I give you a wrong weather forecast. But it would be a great time to come and see all the cranes. There's over 600,000 here now, I believe. And they are active when it's warm. So
I'm showing 62 high for Saturday and 61 high for Sunday.
okay.
Yeah, good weekend for it.
The other night when I traveled to one of our communities in the eastern part of the state or of the region, it was about time for them to get very active and think about heading back to the river. And thousands were in the air and active in the fields while they were still feeding. So I could have pulled over and watched them forever, I think. So if you've never seen the cranes, you should take advantage of it. So, Andrea, welcome. I know I'm going to miss somebody, but I'm doing my best. Kelly, welcome. Many of you probably don't remember Romper Room, but Miss Linda and all of those people would have their magic mirror and hold it up and try to acknowledge you. And I was always so thrilled when I heard my name, not knowing that it was just all scripted. So we are getting closer to 2 o'clock, but we'll let a few more individuals join us. Drew, welcome. I see Joanne. Laura, welcome. I think I saw Sharon and Christy also join us. Nick and Cheryl, thanks for joining us as well.
Wow, if Christy got on, that means that she is the new techie person in the office. She got herself hooked back up. We moved her office for a day or two.
We happened to have a little flooding in Christy's office over the weekend, so she was displaced for a momentary few days. So Taryn, Beverly, excuse me. Welcome. Give another minute or two. We have a good number of registrations and I want to get as many as we can. Christy and Mason, welcome. I will mention before we get underway here that I want to give a shout out and recognize our partners at the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for their financial investment and support of the HomeNE Learning Network. I know I speak for everybody here at South Central Economic Development District when I say thank you and express our appreciation to the department and their staff for their ongoing support of the HomeNE Learning Network. So I want to just give that shout out and kudos. Tanya, welcome. And I'm hearing
Hello.
joining us. Pardon me?
Mason has his mic unmuted. Tanya does.
Good, good. I'll give maybe one more minute, but I do want to honor everybody's time who is joining us today and get started. We always have a practice session with our speakers, and it was a great time with our speakers this lunch hour going over their presentation. So I want to give them every available minute that we can. So, okay. Well, as I said, I do want to honor everybody's time and get started. A reminder to all of you who are in attendance that we are streaming this on our YouTube channel. So if you or a coworker have problems with your Zoom feed, feel free to hop over to YouTube and you can check it out there as well. We have a good number of registrations today, and so we may encounter a little bit of technology issues. So check out our YouTube channel if you're having issues. So let me just say welcome and good afternoon to all of you who have joined us. And I know many more will be joining us here in a little bit, but my name is Lori Ferguson and I'm with South Central Economic Development District here in Holdridge. Thank you for joining us today. Our HomeNE webinar continues to expand across the state of Nebraska, and many of you have been faithful in making this learning network meaningful and growth oriented. I think Sherry told me we have at least 16 new people registered. So it's our goal that the organizations and communities that are represented on a monthly basis here in the HomeNE Learning Network webinar series reap the benefits and dividends as a result of your participation. So to those of you who are new to HomeNE today, I just want to wish you and extend to you a warm welcome. And to those of you who regularly participate in our HomeNE network and our gatherings, we thank you as well. So everyone, welcome to HomeNE today. So today we have the pleasure of hearing from Gary Brettschneider. He is with the City of Norfolk, and Thomas Hickenbotham. He is the Executive Director of the Northeast Nebraska Economic Development District, and they will be speaking on the timely and important topic of infill revitalization in the City of Norfolk. So before we introduce our speakers more in depth here shortly, I just encourage you to jot down questions and be ready to ask our speakers. I believe they will be taking questions as they make their presentation this afternoon. So feel free to put those questions either in your chat box or open your microphone and ask those as we go along. So we will also be monitoring the chat box for your questions, and we'll be sure and get those to the speakers as well. So Sherry has put up, we want to know though, before we begin, what interests you about today's topic? What makes you join us? What do you want to know? And also, what do you hope to know more about at the end of this webinar? So we welcome your input in the chat box today. HomeNE is a learning network, and as we often say here, we learn best when we learn together and interact and engage with each other. So please share your thoughts with us as we spend our time together. So And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon Heffley. She is the Executive Director here at South Central Economic Development District. Sharon?
Hey, I remembered to unmute, so it's a good day. Good afternoon and welcome to the March HomeNE webinar. As most of you know, the South Central Economic Development District serves as the lead agent for this learning network, and we are glad you're here. HomeNE is designed for community people seeking to address our local housing challenges. The purpose of HomeNE is to build a network of individuals and communities with a shared interest in assessing and addressing housing issues in rural communities, to provide a safe space to discuss what's been tried and find motivation to take one more step in the right direction, to learn from the successes and struggles of others, to take away new ideas or see things through a new lens, which I think Norfolk will help you do today, and to inspire you. We want to inspire you to in turn inspire your tribe. Nobody can do things like you will in your community, and we just hope this is a Kickstarter for you. As Lori said, we are joined today by Gary Bretschneider and Tom Higginbotham. Gary is the Executive Director of the City of Norfolk Housing Agency. He began his employment with this city in April of 2008 as Housing Coordinator in charge of owner-occupied rehab and new construction grants. In 2015, Gary spearheaded the upper level rehabilitation project with the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, and 3 property owners added 6 second-floor apartments to downtown Norfolk. Gary has served the city in many roles. He's coordinated grant programs, including single-family rental rehab, direct home buyer assistance, and owner-occupied rehab. He has also implemented and guided the purchase of condemned houses in order to demolish the units and build new low to moderate income family homes, and he supervised the construction of homes on infill lots. Gary is also a Nebraska licensed real estate, I was going to say realtor, and then that's not right. Real estate broker. Turn the page too quick. Tom Higginbotham is the Executive Director of the Northeast Nebraska Development District. He has been with the organization since 2000, and he's been Executive Director since 2005. He has over 20 years experience in the management of economic development programs. He's a graduate of the DeVry Institute of Technology and is responsible for all budgetary and programmatic activities and provides management of all of Northeast Nebraska Economic Development District staff and oversight of program implementation. He also has experience in governmental and nonprofit accounting, auditing, and tax prep. Tom is a member and board member of the Nebraska Regional Officials Council, member of the Nebraska Economic Developers Association, and the National Association of Development Organizations, where he serves on the board of directors as a Midwestern region representative. He also serves as the current board chair of the Norfolk Housing Agency and has been on the board of directors for nearly 10 years. So Gary and Tom, welcome to our HomeNE Learning Network, and I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you for your invite. We appreciate it greatly. I'm probably going to let Tom kick it off first with some comments about the housing board, and then I'll kind of take into the presentation part. So Tom, I'll let you go.
Yes, thank you for the invitation here. Yes, I currently been serving these last few years as the board chairman for the Norfolk Housing Agency. The Norfolk Housing Agency was created by the city of Norfolk probably back in the 70s due to a low-income housing project. And then over the years, just been developed into doing owner-occupied rehab, down payment assistance. We're actually separate from the city of Norfolk. We don't have any staff. We contract with the city of Norfolk to do all the housing programs. So Gary is actually a city employee. And over the years, we have a development corporation where we've had some program income on. And those are typically what we have used to start this infill housing, to buy these dilapidated properties. And also just how we got involved in this with Gary's experience in working with local contractors and builders and landowners. He found out that folks really don't want to deal with demolition and all of the hassle that goes into it. So we stepped up to the plate years ago and said, we'll take that on and get those empty lots to those builders who want to build a home. So that's kind of a little bit of history, a little bit of background on the housing agency itself. I'll tell you, I've been on the board for quite a while. I was on the board when we started this. So the key point there is if you want to take this back to your communities and your regions and your area, you know, having a good board that is on board with doing things and thinking outside the box. We allow, you know, we do not micromanage Gary and his staff. You know, we allow them to think outside the box for the betterment of Norfolk. So with that, that's all I have to kick it off with, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Tom. A little background on housing agency ourselves. We also do Section 8 vouchers for the city, rental assistance. There's 226 of those. As Tom mentioned, we do rehab of owner-occupied, single-family, upper-level, multifamily. We've done the gamut of those. We also own and manage a 53-unit apartment, the Kensington in downtown Norfolk, and a 24-unit apartment across from the college. Then we do manage for Rob Woodling out of Omaha, 14 of his Crown homes that are rent-to-owns. Those are out at Woodland Parks. We're in the process of 2 years away from getting those turned over to renters right now that'll become homeowners. So it's going to be a process. We'll enjoy going through that with them in the next couple of years. And then we are building homes, as Tom said. So let's go to slide 1 there, if we could, Sherry. The next one here. This is what every town has. I'm going to be honest with you. No one likes it. The neighbor doesn't like it. Your permits division doesn't like it. It's an eyesore for areas, but everyone has them. You know, people let properties get run down. There's just no way past the ability of some people to not afford to get their house fixed up. But then as we say that, go to the next slide and I'll show you what everyone wants. We took this property and we built this house on that same lot. So every town wants to get a couple of these into their neighborhoods. As you can see, the neighborhood is really nice around it. We took the trees down. It opened up that whole area. It turned it into a great, great house for the family. On the next slide is how we got involved in it. This is slapped on the door by the city health division. They just come up and go, it's condemned. It's past where it can't be done. You've got foundation issues. You got roof coming in. It's litter. It's trash. All kinds of things gets our city health division to come out and tag these properties. This property was owned by a gentleman who had added on so many different times without permits. It was unsafe how he did things, but he passed away and this was left to his family. So they inherited a house that had to be tore down. We offered them the opportunity for $1 to come in and clean up this house. We cleaned up their estate also because there were no funds to pay for the attorney to get it cleaned up. So we ended up taking over this property, tearing it down, doing all that was needed to help the neighborhood as we went through this. So as we go to this next slide, you know, the properties have to go, and this one was sidewalk to sidewalk with trash, trees, just debris. It went all the way to the back lot line. He added on a shed after shed after shed. It was not in good rapport. And as you see the upper level there, there is no upstairs. It's just that he built and put another ceiling on above his other house. So different things get built by different people. So if we hit the next slide, we'll show you a little bit of what the backside of that looked like. It was just, we caught it at this time of the year. You know, you got your leaves aren't out there so you can see a little better. But the shed was full of lumber, garbage, trash he just had thrown in the sheds for years. So when we go to this next one, to the next slide shows, we started on the back on the cleanup. This is probably day 1. They just started throwing off, backed up the hauler. He just started ripping into the shed. And then we go to the front page here, and here's where I kind of want to get you a little background. When we come to this stage, you can see the yellow or the post in the ground. We came ahead and did a disconnect of the water and sewer. And you need to do that so that you know where that water sewer is and get the same contractor that you're going to have when you build your house, because he wants to know if that's a 1-inch line or a 3/4 inch line coming in, because it's going to matter. He wants to know if it's good tile pipe or what is out there for his sewer. So you want to do all those things up front. You got to disconnect your gas, decide if you're going to have gas go back in. So there's a variety of things that all have to get done with that. We also, as you can see in this, there's windows missing. We did an asbestos, which you are required to do, and the glaze that held the glass into the wood was asbestos. So they had to remove that. And then inside there's one room that was sheetrock, that was asbestos. The rest of the house was fine, but $3,000 later, the asbestos was removed and hauled off. So you got to look at some of those things and figure those expenses when you're taking a look at a property. So when we decided on a footprint that we wanted to go in here with. We also, as you can see, trees sitting around. We planned to take out trees, and that was about $3,000 additional dollars to take out trees. So we'll hit the next slide. This was day 3. As you can see, we have a really good contractor, demo gentleman. He lifted everything else off the sidewalls and left me the front door for the next morning when I came. As you can see, the same door is still standing. But with their ability, they can rip the wood product, construction product, and they pile it and haul it off to construction landfill. They haul the garbage and all the stuff you see underneath there, household goods, that goes to the dump. They pick out all the scrap, throw that in a side, that gets taken by them and thrown in a pile to be salvaged. And then you still have all the concrete, the foundation, brick. We found a cistern that was buried underneath this house we weren't aware of. So you'll find surprises that come along with this. So if you can take it from there, you put it out for bids and you get a contractor that'll tell you what he will do, and he hauls it away. So we'll go to the next one here. Next slide. This is about 3 months later. We have it cleared off, leveled. We had to dig the footprint a little bigger for this house that we were going to put in. But I'll tell you, when you look at this, it looks like a nice clean yard, but it took us weeks of walking over that with a 5-gallon bucket, picking up pieces of brick, rock, glass, everything that can come from a construction site. But it needs to be cleaned up because you don't want to turn that over to the next person. So when we had our concrete guy come in, he did from, you see the driveway, and he did the poured foundation. Have one guy do all that, you don't have, problems of one coming in or not. So once in the process of doing that, we'll go to the next slide and show you where we put in drain tile around it. City requires it. We put in egress windows. We have the basement formed for a potential bathroom in the basement. And then if you see on the far side of that wall, there's clean out pipe for the clean out sewer that goes out that way. And that leads right out to where that yellow or red pipe was out there. You just keep all that stuff in line. And we hit the next slide. I'll show you the fact. This front pipe that's in front of you is a radon. We're required to put in radon. So when we did this construction, we put the 15-foot of perforated pipe underneath the floor. And then this pipe will run up through the garage ceiling, up through the roof. We do not attach a fan unless it tests and is needed. But that's all there for a homeowner with a plug right there that doesn't cost them a lot. Then we have your egress windows around the side so they can place 2 more bedrooms in the basement if they want to. It just makes it a very starter home, but it's also could be a quick family home if you needed it. And then we go to the next slide. You'll see this is what we built. This house fits on there. It's a 2 bedrooms, large laundry room with large bathroom with laundry facility in there. It's got an open floor plan, kitchen, dining, patio door goes out to a deck. Fit very well on this house. We put the side door on as an afterthought. First, we weren't going to put the walk door, but we thought, yeah, that'd be handy just to get in and out better than using the garage door all the time. And if we go to this next slide, we'll show you the decks on there. They have a place to sit. The landscape was put in. They did sod. We took out of a couple more trees just to make sure they weren't roots going to come back. And when we started back on this project, that property tax value to the county of Madison was $394 for 2019. In 2020, the taxes off this property are $3,296. So you see a great increase comes off of cleaning up a property that comes back to the city to the county and to the schools, all the benefits that come with it. Any questions along the line by anyone at this time?
This is Tom. I see couple questions in there about financing, and how, we got started, we have the housing agency has a development corporation that had some money in there, and that is the seed money that we utilized to start this process. We also, just the board decided with the staff that, we're going to go to the bank and get a bank loan to do some of this stuff, and our goal is, obviously, we're not a developer. We don't want to be a developer. We don't want to make money. We want to break even, obviously, at the minimum, but we're not in this to become rich. Our goal is, to at least recoup our costs, maybe make a little bit of money and roll that into the next property. But, so that's kind of how we really got started is we had some seed money from our development corporation, and then taking a leap of faith and going out there and working with our local banks to get some financing. And I'll tell you, that's another key part is developing relationships with your bank. That was a key part to us. I'm not sure we'd be where we are today if we didn't have that relationship.
Gary?
Yes.
Joanne put a question in asking about the average cost to demo housing structures.
That house there was a $9,500 demo plus the asbestos removal. So we probably wrapped up 14,000 into that.
Okay.
To demo it. So you have to be very cautious. It was a large home, a lot of stuff on it. One of the next slides will show we had a $6,000 demo. So it just varies between how much trash is removed as they go through that process. So we came back and put this house, it's 1,120 square foot ranch home, sold for in the 165 range. So you're $149 a square foot. Probably couldn't do that today in today's construction market, but it was workable for us at that time. And as Tom said, we try to get these turned to where you aren't, because we are using some interest. We don't want it to set on there for another 4 years. We want to turn them right away to get them to a homeowner.
I know Daniel had mentioned he would like to know more about demo and other items when resources are tight. And then Kelsey's asking if you utilized tax increment financing.
No, there was nothing on the line of tax increment along these. We stepped up, took the chunk for having it tore down, went and got financing at the bank to say, okay, you got a line of credit, and we used it as we went along. And hopefully you're out of it before you get past that level. You're trying to anticipate it, but this is solely done by the corporation itself.
Okay. Okay.
And our goal is, really when we started this, our goal was to, get these dilapidated properties tore down into a bare lot, and really our goal is to have the private sector come in and buy that lot from us so that a local contractor is the one doing it. And obviously that's, sometimes that doesn't always happen. So that's another thing that we did was we took that role on and actually built some of these homes and owned it ourselves all the way through the sale. But and it's, lessons learned on a couple of these here are, you gotta move in slow. You gotta make sure you know where your costs are at, and just do your due diligence.
Okay, good. I'll let you continue on. There is a question about square footage, square foot cost to build, but you may be addressing that here as you go.
For this one, it was approximately $149 a square foot closing last year. So that'll give them an indication, and that has gone up, I'm sure, with the cost of lumber and everything lately. Let's go to the next slide there, Sherry, if we could. This was another one of our properties that we ended up with. This property ended up going to 3 years of taxes. It sat like this probably for 5 or 6 years, but it went through the tax certificate sale. A person purchased those taxes for 3 years. They got the property. They came to Norfolk to see it, and then they saw the condemned sign, meaning they had to tear it down because they owned it now. Well, they turned around and deeded it back to the previous landowner and said, no, it's yours again. So we bought it from him. So what we did is came in with this one, and there was trees. And you go to the next slide, we found a food truck that was sitting back buried in. When we first got there, it was before this season, you could hardly see that food truck. So we have to go in and try to do as much as you can to keep it safe. But we were not feeling safe to go up on that roof to close that front window just because of the roof was going in the way it was. So if you go to the next slide, this is how property is. And neighbors see this all the time. You know, that whole backyard overgrows in the summertime, and you got snakes, you got rabbits, you got possums. That shed was full of different critters. That's what the neighbors see. So when you go to this next slide, we've started to do our cleanup on this. This was the initial. He walked away. That's what he left us. So we don't go in and take much out of these and try to salvage anything because it's usually damp, moldy, and other items you don't want to grab into. So the contractor sorts a lot of this out when he's peeling that house apart. He can grab and throw that into a separate trailer. So if we hit the next slide is the one that where we started removing trees, and you can see what we did to show where this house, had it been caught years earlier, you might have been able to save this as a turn it into a different home, but it was past that when we got to it. So we took trees down along this side of the house. It helped the neighbors there. We go to the next slide. It shows a large tree that lot line is right in the middle of that stump. We dropped the tree with the permission of the other owner saying, hey, we'll take the tree down. It's going to get hauled away. You won't have an expense on it. So you become a good neighbor when you do this, because they really appreciate it when you are making their neighborhood better. But these little things, yeah, we probably could have charged him $300-400 for it, but it wasn't worth it. We had the guy there, and you can see behind that tree is the tree truck. He's there right now. Those gentlemen will give that tree, a lot of that tree away if people want it to cut up and burn. So you got other people at work as you go through this process, but there's a lot of people get involved in it. You'll see the posted sign that was on the back door. You do everything you can to keep that thing safe, because little kids love to come in and check these buildings out. And once you take responsibility, it is yours. So you have to be cautious of that. So we'll go to this next slide. And this is the one Tom was talking about, where what we would prefer to do is do what we just did, is demo this house for probably $6,500 plus $3,000 in trees. And we've got about 11 to 12 in this lot. But a contractor, developer came and said, hey, I'd like to buy that lot. He bought it from this level here. Profit was made by us to put back into another project, but he dug the house that he wanted. He came in there. The one thing I'll caution anyone when you do this is, we've watched ourselves do, you have to build back what is right for the neighborhood. You can't build because, oh, I think I can get a nice 3-bedroom, 1,600 square foot house, because that's what's in there today, and it's having a tough time selling just based on the overbuilding for the neighborhood. So that's something you have to watch out for when you go back into a fill lot. You know, you're getting houses that are been there for years, and then you put in a large one. A lot of people don't want that to happen. They don't want to be the one owning that. So we would prefer to do, like Tom said, is tear them down, let the next guy, let the private sector do it if they can. We've done some, but we would prefer to let them. So we'll go on to our next one. This is our last house, this next slide. This one, as it says, was occupied up until the month before the asbestos inspections came in. The back roof of the one room has come down. It was winter time. There's buckets of water froze in there. Once we took possession of this, we dropped that front porch just for a safety issue, because you couldn't walk up on there. We locked it up and let it sit there. And then we did the demo. This one was approximately $7,500, I think, to demo this property. So it's all based on the square footage of the house. When they look at it, there was a garage that got taken away. And as you look at this, I noticed this when we first went to the property. Between the house and the garage, there was a tank vent in the backyard. And we'll go to the next slide. And these things you have to look for. You can see there's a buried tank back there, and it's got the vents and the fill pipe for the fuel oil. So when we did this, we had to then contact the fire marshal and tell him we found an underground tank. He did his research. It was not registered. So then we asked, what do we do? He says, well, you take it out and make sure it's not leaking, no contamination. So we went to the next stage. He dug on both sides of this, lifted this tank out, dry as a bone. So we did not have any contamination over all the years there. Go to this next slide and we'll show you as he brings it out. You know, he hooks it with his fork, pulls it out, sets it down on the ground in this next slide. It's a 700-gallon tank. So we register that with the fire marshal, and now it's a registered tank that's been removed. And as I'm doing this, I noticed the property to the south, they have one of these in their yard. We're not worried about that, but those are the things you do need to look for at times, because, you know, this has been a surprise how we've been digging and that had been broke off, and then you dig for your footings or foundation and find a fuel tank. That would really throw off costs again. So now we'll go on to the next slide here. This is what we're doing on this house. This is a slab on grade, 1,120 square foot home. We had to break up some concrete out front. When they tore this up, they broke it up off the neighbor's driveway. So we replaced part of our front curb and theirs. Being a good neighbor when you do it, because you're pouring sidewalk, you just help out them. So when you come into this one, the next picture shows you how wide open floor plan we've decided to go with. You're in this front room and you go to a bedroom to your right, you got utility room, you have the bathroom off to the next, and the far back is master bedroom. If you go back into the kitchen, you go back into that garage door, and right in that area is the laundry. So if we've got vinyl plank throughout the whole home because we're making it handicap adaptable. So if someone had to come in, they could get by with a wheelchair and there's no bumps, no raises to go. We'll go into the bathroom here. We, as I said, handicap adaptable. We make as much as possible to where if someone had to use it, it's a walk, just a step in shower. We have the grab bar that works both ways for the stool as well as for the shower. Create some shelving in that back space that's there. We provide everything as you see there. We put in the mirrors, the handlebars, everything's there. And we'll go into the master bedroom. This is the one thing we've looked at, means we're doing a grade on slab on this next slide. When we do the pouring, we have them put the footing in for this storm shelter. That storm shelter is solid as can be, poured concrete on top. Doubles as a walk-in closet for the master bedroom. As you can see, that door opens to the inside. So if we're hit by a tornado, they could open the inside door and escape otherwise, if your door is opening to the outside, you could be blocked and can't get out. So that's a plus we're doing. And in Nebraska, you're going to have tornadoes, and people do worry about where would they go in case of a storm on a slab on grade property. And the next slide we have, this is one of the other homes we did. This was on a burned out property, and the fire was on this property. We tore down the house, reconfigured this one, and now this one taxes out at $3,400 a year, where, you know, it was a vacant lot before. So we've kind of been good at sticking with our floor plan. If you notice, some of these are on the same floor plan. I mean, if it's worked, we didn't want to tweak it too much. And that's what this one did. And on our next one was a footing that was fire damage that we could build on top of, and it had a single car garage. So we just built on top of it. We had the inspections done that said the foundation was fine. We could just build on top. So you can find those in different projects you'll run into. And again, came in here. The issue we had with this was a steeper backyard. So we had to create some flow around the outside to where it wasn't coming into the back patio area. And our next one, this slide here is, I guess we're going to take, Tom, we got to take responsibility sometimes, right? When we make mistakes. This
That's
was
right.
one of the mistakes. We purchased a house that was on here that was on a sheriff's sale. And because we had done an owner occupied loan on it and they were moving out early, we thought, well, yeah, we could rehab that. And we probably thinking was right, but we didn't do correct homework. Well, by the time we got into it with an architect and with the city permits, we could not build on that due to the headroom going up the stairs to the upstairs bedrooms, and that's where they were, in the basement. The headrooms were not adequate. So we ended up tearing down that house after buying it for a sheriff's price in the 50,000s. Then we came back and built this house. So do your research a lot on those things. If you're going to, as Tom said, we thought outside of the box, and we did think outside of the box on this one, but next time we'll do a little more research when we get into it. But this turned out really good. That street that you see is gravel in front of it. We held back 13,000 for assessment. The streets were coming in the next year and a half. So they came in this year, they paved it. We held the money back. We paid 9,900, just under $10,000 assessment on that to get that back. But that wasn't something we wanted to give to the homeowner. That'd be unfair to him to find that 2 years later. So you have those that happen. Now we'll go to this next slide here. This was a demo house in a nice neighborhood. The house that was there was in good shape, but it got beat up, tore up, stripped. All kinds of things got done to it. So we tore it down and put in this home. Any other questions on demo type things on this area before we get into our last set of slides?
Well, Gary, I'm going to answer maybe one of these questions here we can talk a little bit about. There was an early question when we first started about the process of motivating people to consider infill, revitalization, and how to answer questions people may have. I think for us, first of all, you got to have, the backing of the elected officials for the community. And unfortunately for Norfolk, they have that backing. Norfolk is lucky enough to have its own housing staff so that's their job, is to, create housing opportunities. So they were kind of a little bit of ahead of the game on convincing other people. But, those two things you got to have. And, talking to, the contractors in your community, the bankers, and really the positive thing here is for the community is getting, something back on the tax rolls that's going to create some taxes so we can, spread that burden across, more people and more places. But obviously, you got to have, some good successes. If you can get in there, tear down a house, put a new one up, like the ones we've seen here today, you can build that motivation, the motivation to get people to do it. Like I said, our motivation, was, to help the community, and do something with the seed money that we had from our development corporation, and, community support, like Gary said, building relationships. And I think Norfolk is fortunate enough, and as the board chairman, we're lucky to have Gary. He has those relationships with contractors, realtors, his coworkers in the codes department, to really talk about, the safety and the hazards of getting these things out of here. So hopefully that answered the question. It's tough. It takes money. We're, like I said, lucky enough that we have some seed money. But, you need to partner. I would recommend partnering with, whoever you can. Talk to your local banks, to see if they can, put in some money, local foundations, donations. Encourage your local governments if they have the ability to budget for demolition. Maybe it's just one a year, maybe it's two a year, but at least you can get something moving and going, and hopefully sell a house and, make a little bit of a profit so you can roll that into the next one.
I'd answer a couple of those questions. One, do we foresee housing rehabs instead of ground up being built? I would see that. When I talk to contractors around here, when they go buy a 4x8 sheet of plywood, as you call it, MD board, $50 a sheet, that adds a lot to a house real quick. And that's what we're seeing. A contractor up at Hayter told me, he goes, I'm glad I bought material for this house before that jump came, because it's a $30,000 increase. We probably won't be making that jump into the ground up on new homes right now. We may look at that rehabs of properties. And I'd encourage that to go out there and be done. The other question was on doing a slab on grade. Our motivation for that was we had numerous people that were looking for mom or dad's got to get out of their 2-story home. Do you have anything that has no steps? Just come in and let us walk in. That last home we showed that there's no steps. You come out of the garage, it's all level. And that's what is needed, because we sold one of them last year. It was purchased by the Ponca Housing Authority for one of their members, and that it was slab on grade. They just move right in. You don't have to worry about tripping and sliding. And one was in a wheelchair, so that has the opportunity to have that taken care of. So you really have some things to take a look at, diverse. I would encourage, to work with your health division, your code division. They have these houses out there, but Norfolk had a budget at one time, $100,000 a year to knock these down. And last year they did 2 of them, and one of them got paid back. One hasn't, 2 of them, 3, because 2 haven't gotten paid back. One, that lot did sell, so that could get moved on. And we did facilitate that connection between them. And I think that's part of what the housing division's responsibility should be to citizens is we may not want to build on that lot, but I know someone who will. I put them with the property owner and a builder and let them go at it, because it needs to be done. People feel so much better when that lot is filled in a neighborhood, because they start to look at fixing theirs up, and it improves the whole neighborhood. So let's
Hey, Gary, I saw another question in here. Can you elaborate a little bit when you're going through the planning process of a property, how you deal with irregular lots, the odd sizes and those kinds of things?
We have not had too many of those that we've had to go out after. We've avoided some. We had one opportunity coming up to us. They just demoed the house last month, but it's a corner lot, and you have a side setback of 25 feet. You have a front setback of 25, and you're on a 50-some foot lot. It doesn't bode well too much to do. So you really need to look at that. Most of ours have been just rectangular lots. I mean, we've been fortunate in coming into those that they've been all rectangular lots, and you take the plan. We have a variety of plans and just place it on there and make sure you're within your setbacks to where you aren't in code violations. So yeah, we have not ran into many of the odd shaped lots.
Gary,
Yes.
we did have a question, and I apologize if you addressed this. Do you make your floor plans available to people who might be on the webinar today?
Yes, we can get you copies of our floor plans.
Okay, thank
And we
you.
have elevations, everything, the elevation floor plan, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, I don't see any other questions at the moment. So
Okay, let's see what the next slide shows us. Okay, this property here, the city of Norfolk owned a property that came through a street realignment process. They straightened out a curb that was gravel road, so they figured let's move it over. So they ended up with some different lots or a parcel of land. So as we go through this, I'll have to back up because I just said we don't deal with them very much. This one was 5 lots. We took this parcel and subdivided it with the engineer designing the lots. So it's not something we had to work with. We just had to give him our floor plan and say, we need a 1,120 square foot home. We got to stay 7 feet on the sides, this on the back, make it work. Well, he did. He tweaked it. He made it work. We got 5 houses on there. We purchased it from the city. So at the city time, there were no taxes coming in at all. There was no tax money on that. So we'll take the next side. This is a street view of this, what we did. We started here and we went up along the street. 1,120 square foot sounds like a broken record, but that's been a floor plan that works for families. 2 people were in the first one. Next one had a mother with 3 kids. Next home was a retired couple moving in. So when we did these, we did not finish the basement unless they wanted to as they came along. And that came up to about $15,000 to finish a basement, putting in a bathroom, sheetrock, plumbing, carpeting, and from there. And each of these have the 2 bedrooms for the egress windows for bedrooms in the basement, plus the 2 on main. And then you'll go to this next slide, you'll see where we changed as we went along. Way to the end, we're kind of like cookie cutter homes. Now we started going, we got to make them look different. So we added the little dorm over the deck, over the front. We did a variety of things to make these home looks better. So as of last year, 2020, these 5 homes in this stretch is $16,000 income to the county, city, and school district. So you do benefit, the city does benefit from people doing these. They love it. These neighborhoods, you know, they get along, they're in each other's backyards, having a good time. It's really something that you like to see, and you like to hear their compliments when you talk to their mom or dad on the street. They go, oh, he's really happy in that house. I'm glad he got to do it. 3 out of these 5 homes went with direct home buyer assistance. So that helped them out to get the income. Was it, I'm not sure, 120, I think is where we're at percent, but they received 30,000 down payment assistance, which we worked through Tom's department when we did that, and we got that set up earlier. So there's a lot of avenues to do and work with. You may not find a parcel that's 5 lots that you can do it with, but I think.
Yeah, I think that was just, this one is kind of a unique situation. Just like Gary said, the city owned this piece of property probably for 12 to 15 years. And it just sat there. And then I believe this is the one where, you know, the city put out a request for proposals for, you know, to sell these lots to someone to build some homes. And I think there was only 2 proposals. The housing agency was one of them, and the other one, I believe, basically wanted the 5 lots for free. So, you know, we were the better option for the city, and it just turned out. And I'll tell you, lessons learned, if you want to get to doing this in your community, you know, one thing, you know, really need to pay attention to is, you know, don't get too many going at the same time. We kind of ran into lessons learned, just to be honest with you, a couple, you know, maybe we should have done, you know, 3 instead of 5 at one time, or 2. And most of all of these 5, you know, this is where we really utilized our line of credit with our local bank in getting these built.
I would agree with that, Tom. You know, what happened is you built one and then you started another one. They go, well, I'd like it on the lot next door. So you go build that one where your house sits and everything continues on that second one. Next guy comes and, well, I want the next lot. You can get behind an 8 ball pretty quick. So make them take the one that you're building.
And I think the other key too is, you know, realizing, you know, when you talk about the irregular lots, infill lots, and Gary mentioned that one that we sold to a private developer who then in turn built something probably a little more extravagant than that should have been there, is really understanding the neighborhood and really understanding what can fit in that lot and fit the neighborhood. You know, the goal here is not to build $500,000 houses. The goal here is to build something that fits the neighborhood, that is reasonably priced, to get something back on the tax rolls, to create income for the community. And to clean up the hazard. And the safety and the hazard is also right there at the top of the list. So. And of course, if you want to do this with your local housing agency, you know, if you provide the board a wonderful lunch at your board meetings, they'll do whatever you want. So there's a takeaway.
There's a takeaway. Any other questions?
Sure. I was just going to say it's worth the price that they paid today for that takeaway, Tom. So
I do have to back up and thank Tom and the rest of our directors. It's been excellent to work with them. You know, we can come with an idea and they'll, you know, there are checks and balances with it, because sometimes we think a little too far from the box, but you know, they'll rein us back in with what's there, because they're responsible for the dollars and cents as much as we are. But we're also looking out overall for the community. We're now working closer with the health division and the permits, trying to figure out a way to come into this and go, how can we get these properties that are bad taken down and into other developer or a contractor's home or Habitat for Humanity? I mean, there's a variety of places that can go with those, and you can work with those other entities. Sometimes it just takes someone that wants to tear down that property, because a lot of contractors don't want to mess with it. Families, they don't, that house has been bad. That's a bad omen for them. They don't even want to mess with it. So they walk away from them.
And I think that's a key point. I think, that is a key point is really figuring out a way to get those properties down. But then you got to have someone interested in building. If your organization's not going to do it itself, having that relationship with your local builders or area builders, that are willing to come in here and buy that lot after you've cleaned it off, and, to build that smaller home where they're not going to be making as much money as they would building that 1,600 square foot home or 2,000 square foot home. So it's just about building those relationships and finding those folks that want to get involved and want to do it, and yet make a profit. Obviously, we don't want the private sector to struggle as they need to make income and pay their employees. So it's a fine line to balance, but it's all about partnerships, talking to people, and building those relationships.
And if anyone has contact with me on questions, feel free to do that. Email me. However, I'll be glad to answer, send floor plans, do what we can. I like the fact that, we've had success at it and we want to continue doing it, but we also want to help and encourage other entities. They can benefit from our successes. Glad to help you.
Good. And we do have your contact information on the screen, and I've already had one request for some plans that I'll share that with you at the conclusion here today. So what questions do you have for Gary and Tom this afternoon as you're thinking about that? What's been the most rewarding aspect of this? And I think I've heard you mention that, but if you could just share one thing about this. It has been, 10, 20 years since you've started this process?
I would take away, the part that's really nice is when you hand those keys over to someone that gets into this neighborhood now. That's a real success to see that look in their face when they finally got to own a home. And then they meet that neighbor that he remembers what was there. And now he's got this nice new home beside him and a new neighbor. And I think that's what's really, really gratifying to us, to be able to have people enjoy home ownership like most of us have. We have that joy of home ownership. Some people don't, but we give them a little chance to do it.
Okay. Good. Tom, do you have anything to share there?
No, I don't. I think I would echo what Gary said. It's, at the end of the day, it's about improvement, and everybody's wired differently, when I look at this program, and I really see the removal of the health and safety issues, even if it's just left a bare lot for the rest of its life, at the end of the day, the health hazard is gone.
Okay. Alan is sharing that one of his aha moments for this was the fact that the difference in the tax income for the city, from an old dilapidated, crappy structure that might have been bringing in 300 a year to over 3,000. I think you shared those numbers early on in the presentation, Gary. So that was a great aha takeaway for Alan. And yes, David is requesting as well some basic plans. So we'll put you in touch here after the webinar today. So
that would be fine.
Yeah. So yeah, what other takeaways are you as participants in our webinar having from today's presentation with Gary and Tom?
I know Sharon's takeaway is she gets to see me twice today.
That's exactly right. Actually, not see you because I told him, "Oh, Tom had his camera on. I've never seen Tom have his camera on. So
You just got
That's
to
because you have always told me I have a radio.
I don't think that's true. Hey, I just want to mention, and I put it in the chat, that if you do have questions on something going on, non-conforming lots and that kind of thing, the June 2018 webinar had some really good information about that too. So I think that, our hope with HomeNE is that you'll take what Tom and Gary talked about, how they've done things in Norfolk, and go back and find out how did North Platte do it, and hear about how, all these communities, that's the hope. And then you go, hey, wait, we can do this. We're going to do it. We're going to do this like Norfolk did, and this like North Platte did, and this like Holdridge or whoever did. And then you make it work for your community. And really the way you're going to do that is by just asking a lot of questions. So if you have questions, have you had anybody that's done this? Or if you have stories, hey, we know such and such did this town. I don't care if they're in Nebraska or somewhere else, but we need to share those so that we can all learn and then apply them in our own backyard.
Exactly. Thank you for reminding us of that, Sharon. So as you maybe are thinking, and I see some chat information going on, I just want to remind you, as Sharon mentioned, that all of our past webinars are part of our website. Sherry, if you want to pull that up. But it's www.sked.us/HomeNE. We're in our 4th year of doing webinars now, so you can access any of our past webinars there and listen in on different topics. So we've had success stories, we've had teaching sessions, and it's all good stuff. So you'll want to take advantage of that as well. So we know that many of you are doing just that. So before I share what next month's webinar topic is, I just want to take a couple moments and update you on our spring gathering that is coming up. I can actually officially announce a date for you today, and I am so excited. We are going to have an in-person gathering June 3rd. That's a Thursday, so grab your calendars and mark that date off, because you are all going to go to the spring gathering, where we will be talking about downtown redevelopment and upper story living and how that holistic approach has brought new life to downtown Hastings. Dave Rippey with Queen City Development is going to be our featured speaker that day, but we will also be joined by others participating in a panel discussion about what they have benefited from in all of this redevelopment in downtown Hastings. And then it will be springtime and warm, and we're going to be doing a walking tour of downtown Hastings as well. So we do not have a registration yet, but be watching your emails for the registration information and more information on that gathering. We did not have a gathering in 2020, and I am so looking forward to getting together with everyone. So we want you to take advantage of that. So, and next month's topic, it feels like it's going to be upon us very quickly because of the way the April calendar lays out. But April 15th, we will be joined by Andrew Willis of Klein Williams, and he will be talking about creating infill housing opportunities through partnerships formed between the CRA community and tax increment financing. So that's going to be very informative, and we'll just kind of go right along with some of the questions and comments that I read today. So we will be looking forward to seeing all of you back here for that as well. So Gary and Tom, once again, thank you for joining us today. I greatly appreciate it. Good information. And I know a lot of people are requesting the floor plans from you. So do you have any parting thoughts or comments that you want to share?
No, just thanks everyone for bearing with us. So we'll get all that stuff as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, it was our pleasure to bear with you, as you said. Great information. So with that, are there any last thoughts or comments, questions from the group today? Gary is sharing that Gary's email will be in the slides. We do make those available to you tomorrow. So feel free to reach out to Gary as well. So
I just want to say thanks again for sharing your story. It's just so inspiring and encouraging to hear what different communities are doing. And I think what you're doing, I think everybody will want to tune in for next month too, to find out, Tom says lots of partnerships, talk to a lot of people. And I think you'll find out about this other partnership opportunity. We've kind of talked about it slightly before, but Andrew's going to go into detail. So I think that these two webinars today and next month really are going to fit hand in hand, and I'm excited for it.
me too. So, okay. Well, if not, thank you to everyone once again for joining us, Gary, Tom, and many of you who have joined us. And we look forward to seeing you back here on April 15th. So have a great rest of the day.
Thank you much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.